Okay, so we're going to show you some of the cheeses that are happening right now. First, we'll show you our Bleu cheese. This is Stilton Bleu, and you can see that it's been being enjoyed. It's definitely a treat. People want to just come and, you know, take off a chunk. We take our Bleu cheese and our Brie cheese and the Munster stinky cheese out to air once every day at this stage. They're all quite young right now. Our Bleus have been airing for a while, so we just have one cheesecloth for each of them, and we're going to wrap them back up and put them back in the fridge. We don't even use a pail at this point right now. A pail works very good, but we have been having quite good success in just wrapping them, stacking them, and putting them in the main fridge, and we just eat them as we go. We don't have other cheeses in it. It's in its own drawer, and these other guys are not with it. These are the oldest ones, and they're just kind of hanging out on top. It is a little bit of a small container to be aging so many in, but it's working okay. We just make sure that they get enough air. And watch this. The hair of the Brie sticks. It's very cute how that happens. So you make sure, if you're making Brie cheese, that you turn them at least once a day, because that hair really grows. And it starts growing like a mushroom all together. So these guys are actually ready to be wrapped. We should wrap them today. Take it out and flip it as you take it out, and then you know it's flipped. And this is a ply band cheesecloth. It's actually working very good as kind of just a separation. So these are the oldest. These guys are the second oldest. Whoops, there's a little bit of brown happening there. We'll have to scrape that off. And this is just sitting on a bunch of wood. It's working pretty good as far as I can tell. And this was cut into just because I wanted to make sure it was tasting okay and it was going fine. You can see all this mushroomy, okay? You can see it's getting soft in there. You will know that a Brie is ready as the ripeness goes from the outside into the middle. So it's definitely not ripe yet. We'll definitely like to wait at least 3 or 4 more weeks. But they are still yummy. This is more at the Camembert stage. Next up is the Munster cheese, the stinky cheese. Has been being kept in a bowl with some other cloths on it. We can show you how we do that later, but they were just out for some air this afternoon, and we are going to rub the light brine on them. This is a washed rind cheese, so every 3 to 4 days or so, we wash it with a light salt brine. Ideally, your cheeses should be cold before you wash the brine on, and they are still slightly chilly. It's kind of cool how you can see that the softness is also going into the middle, very similar to the Brie cheese. Doesn't have too much of a strong smell yet, but it's coming. The reason why we use a salt brine is because this cheese is very, very moist, and we do have Penicillium candidum, which is the fuzzy kitten mold. We have put that in here, and that's what you see with the white, but you want to be careful that the dark mold doesn't grow. And this morning I noticed here there's some of the kind of bluish grayish mold growing on there, so the salt brine takes care of that, and you can do that with this. It works pretty good. See how it literally washes off the mold, the bad mold. And these cheeses start to smell and have the aroma of like dirty socks. It literally is using the bacteria that makes body odor. And we put a culture in this cheese that is meant to do that. While Breanne is washing the Munster, we're going to take a look at our Goudas here. It turned out nice, smells good, and it's making a lovely rind on the outside. Like we mentioned in the Gouda video, there are a few different ways that you can add salt to your curd. The original recipe doesn't include salting the curd. Instead, it uses the method of putting the cheese into the brine to get it salted, which ideally is the best. If you don't have a brine, there are 2 other options, which is to salt the curd before you put it in the press, or don't salt the curd before you put it in the press, and when it's out of the press, set it on the counter on a plate and dry salt. Dry salt the cheese. It extracts the leftover moisture out of the cheese, and then you can kind of brine it that way in its own pool of whey. Empty the whey, flip the cheese, salt it again, and so on for a couple days, 3 days maybe, and then just keep an eye on it, and then set it out on the counter, and it'll grow a beautiful rind like so. In some of our videos, we've talked about the smoked Gouda. This is one of the first batches of the year. It's mostly smoked with ash wood, but other hardwoods like apple wood and sweet maple, hickory would be lovely as well. Smoked it for approximately 5 hours, set it out on the counter, and then the next day or a couple days vacuum pack it. So smoked Gouda is one of our very favorite cheeses to eat during the winter, and I'm sure if you try it, you'll love it just as much as we do. These cheese mats work really good for what we're doing with the Munster. This has been an experiment and it's working quite well for storing it this way. So just put that in there and it leaves a bit of space. It's not right on the bottom, which is nice because you do have a little bit of runoff. So we're sticking that in there, and then use say 3 more of these mats, which gives space between both of those guys. We also are strapped for fridge space, so that's why we like a smaller container. There you go. And then put a few cloths in there just to kind of protect it and then also keep in the humidity. It's not with other cheeses, it's just on its own with the milk in the fridge. And yeah, just make sure it's nice and covered, and sometimes just a rubber band works kind of good to keep it sealed. But yeah, that's that. And the 2 other cheeses we'd like to quickly introduce you to is the famous lovely Belle Pernod rolled in pepper, which originated with the Floridanica culture Cork cheese. And the last one we have is the Dry Jack, which is still in the process of being made. It needs to dry a little bit yet and get this nice rind on it. And then we will be coating it with the special icing. What do you call it? It's a rub. A rub. And that rub includes cocoa, coffee, pepper, and olive oil. It's delicious. And it's originally actually supposed to be cacao nibs, which is kind of interesting. So that is all for what is on the cheese table for today. We'll see you next time.